The unexpected embrace. Sage Mitchell was elbow-deep in the penguin habitat's filtration system when she heard the commotion from the main aquarium floor. She wiped her hands on her already damp work coveralls and emerged from the maintenance area to find her boss, Helen, looking flustered while gesturing emphatically at a man in an impeccably tailored navy suit. "And this is our marine biology research wing," Helen was saying in her overly polite voice that meant very important visitor. "If you'll just wait here, I'll find our lead researcher to give you the proper tour." "Actually, I think we have a situation," Sage interrupted, pointing toward the sea turtle rehabilitation tank where Mr. Whiskers, a 70-year-old green sea turtle recovering from a boat injury, was making a determined bid for freedom. The ancient turtle had somehow leveraged himself over the tank's safety barrier and was now sliding inexorably toward the marble floor. Sage didn't think, she just moved. She sprinted across the polished floor, her worn sneakers squeaking, and dove to catch Mr. Whiskers before he could crash land and re-injure his healing shell. She managed to get under him just in time, the turtle's considerable weight, easily 100 pounds, sending her stumbling backward directly into the impeccably dressed visitor. They both went down in a tangle of limbs and turtle, Sage clutching Mr. Whiskers protectively, while the stranger's arms automatically caught her to break their fall. They landed in a heap on the floor, Sage sprawled half across the man's chest, her honey-blonde braid falling forward, Mr. Whiskers looking supremely unbothered by the chaos he'd caused. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Sage gasped, carefully handing the turtle to a nearby staff member who'd rushed over. Then she turned her full attention to the man she'd crashed into, and froze. He was gorgeous in that sharp, intimidating way that made her think of stormy oceans and dangerous riptides. Probably in his early 30s, with dark hair that fell across his forehead, high cheekbones, and eyes the color of steel that were currently staring at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. His expensive suit was now covered in seawater and probably turtle-related substances she didn't want to identify. "I am so sorry," Sage repeated, scrambling to her feet and offering him her hand. "Are you hurt? Did Mr. Whiskers scratch you? He's usually very gentle, but—" The man took her hand, letting her help him up, and Sage did what she always did when meeting someone new. She pulled him into a quick, friendly hug. "Thank you for catching me," she said warmly, squeezing briefly before stepping back. "You saved both me and Mr. Whiskers from a very bad day. I'm Sage Mitchell, marine biologist and, apparently, very clumsy turtle wrangler." She stopped because the man had gone absolutely rigid. Not just tense, frozen, like every muscle in his body had locked simultaneously. His breathing had stopped entirely, his eyes wide with something that looked like shock and pain and wonder all mixed together. His hands, which had automatically come up during the hug, were still raised, trembling slightly, as if he couldn't quite process what had just happened. "Mr. Cross," Helen's voice was horrified. "Oh my God, Sage, what have you done? No one touches Mr. Cross, ever." "Mr. Cross?" Sage's mind scrambled to place the name. Then it clicked. Damon Cross, the billionaire tech mogul whose company had revolutionized neural interface technology, one of the richest men in the country, and apparently one of the most touch-averse. "I am so sorry," Sage breathed, mortified. "I didn't know. I didn't mean—" But Damon Cross wasn't looking at Helen or acknowledging the apology. He was staring at his hands, then at Sage, then at his chest where she'd briefly hugged him. His breathing had resumed, rapid and shallow, and his storm-gray eyes held an expression Sage couldn't interpret. "I felt that," he said quietly, his voice rough with disbelief. "I actually felt that." A woman in a crisp black suit, his assistant, Sage assumed, appeared at his side, her expression somewhere between concerned and furious. Mr. Cross, we need to leave immediately. Your medication— No. The word was sharp, commanding. Damon's eyes never left Sage. I'm fine. Better than fine. I want to continue the tour. With her, specifically. But sir, your condition— I said no, Miranda. For the first time in 15 years, someone's touch didn't hurt. Do you understand what that means? It didn't hurt. Sage felt her heart clench at the raw emotion in his voice. 15 years of touch being painful? She couldn't imagine living that way. She was naturally tactile, always hugging friends and family, finding comfort in physical connection. I don't understand, Sage said carefully. Why does touch hurt you? Because when I was a child, my parents ran consciousness research experiments on me. Neural interface trials that went wrong and damaged something fundamental in how I process physical sensation. Since I was 11, any skin-to-skin contact has felt like being electrocuted. I've built my entire life around avoiding touch. His voice was carefully controlled, but Sage heard the years of loneliness beneath it. I've had specialists examine me, neuroscientists, pain management experts, even alternative medicine practitioners. Nothing works. Nothing helps. I've accepted that I'll spend my life isolated from basic human connection. Until you hugged me. Until you hugged me. And Sage, it didn't hurt. For the first time in 15 years, someone touched me, and all I felt was warmth, safety, something I can't even name because I've never experienced it before. Sage's mind was racing through possibilities, but underneath was a growing ache for this brilliant, lonely man who'd been denied something as basic as a comforting touch for most of his life. I don't understand, she said carefully. Why am I different? Damon looked at her for a long moment, something vulnerable flickering beneath his controlled exterior. May we speak privately? About your research, ostensibly. But really, I need to understand what just happened. Helen started to protest. Sage wasn't supposed to meet with potential donors alone, wasn't qualified to handle high-level negotiations. But something in Damon's expression made the words die on her tongue. Of course, Sage said, because her scientific curiosity was overwhelming her embarrassment now. My office is this way. It's small and probably smells like fish food, but it's private. Perfect. As she led him through the aquarium's staff areas, Sage was hyper-aware of Damon following close behind, Miranda trailing at a careful distance. She could feel his gaze on her back, studying her with that same intensity he'd shown after the hug. Her tiny office was exactly as advertised, cramped, cluttered with research papers, and definitely smelling of marine life. But Damon didn't seem to notice or care. He closed the door, leaving Miranda outside, and turned to face Sage with an expression of desperate curiosity. Tell me everything about yourself, where you grew up, your family history, any unusual experiences or abilities, because what you just did, touching me without causing pain, that should be impossible, and I need to understand why you're different. Sage sank into her desk chair, mind spinning. I don't understand. Why does touch hurt you? Because when I was a child, my parents ran consciousness research experiments on me, neural interface trials that went wrong, and damaged something fundamental in how I process physical sensation. Since I was 11, any skin-to-skin contact has felt like being electrocuted. I've built my entire life around avoiding touch. His voice was carefully controlled, but Sage heard the years of loneliness beneath it. I've had specialists examine me, neuroscientists, pain management experts, even alternative medicine practitioners. Nothing works. Nothing helps. I've accepted that I'll spend my life isolated from basic human connection. Until you hugged me. Until you hugged me. And Sage, it didn't hurt. For the first time in 15 years, someone touched me, and all I felt was warmth, safety, something I can't even name because I've never experienced it before.
Sage's mind was racing through possibilities, but underneath was a growing ache for this brilliant, lonely man who'd been denied something as basic as a comforting touch for most of his life. "I don't understand," she said carefully. "Why do you think I'm different?" Damon looked at her for a long moment, something vulnerable flickering beneath his controlled exterior. "May we speak privately?" "About your research, ostensibly, but really, I need to understand what just happened." Helen started to protest. Sage wasn't supposed to meet with potential donors alone, wasn't qualified to handle high-level negotiations, but something in Damon's expression made the words die on her tongue. "Of course," Sage said, because her scientific curiosity was overwhelming her embarrassment now. "My office is this way. It's small and
Yes, but they failed with you because the trauma was too severe. Now they want both of you. Damon for his knowledge and technology, Sage for her strong celestial genetics and natural empathic abilities." Lyra's eyes were grave. "They'll be here within hours. You need to decide. Flee to my homeworld, where you'll be safe but separated from Earth, or stay and fight. But fighting means fully activating your abilities, completing the harmonic bonding you've already begun." "Harmonic bonding?" Sage repeated. "What happens when two celestials, or hybrids, form a permanent bioelectric connection? Their neural pathways synchronize. Their empathic abilities merge and amplify. They become more powerful together than apart. You've already started the process by spending so much time in physical contact. Completing it would make you formidable, but it's also irreversible and intimate. You'd be connected permanently across every level, neurological, emotional, eventually even able to sense each other at a distance." Sage looked at Damon, feeling their connection thrumming between their still-joined hands. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a struggling marine biologist. Now she was being told she was half alien, that the man she'd been falling for was also a hybrid, that a shadowy organization wanted to weaponize them both. "I need to think," she whispered. "You have until tonight," Lyra said. "Then the Synthesis Collective arrives, and you'll need to choose. Flee with me, fight with each other, or be captured and exploited. There's no middle path anymore." She vanished, literally faded from visibility, leaving Sage and Damon alone with impossible truths and impossible choices. "I'm sorry," Damon said quietly, "for bringing you into this. If I'd known connecting with me would put you in danger, you'd, kept yourself isolated forever?" Sage's hand squeezed his. "Damon, for the first time in my life, I understand why I've always felt different, why I connect with marine life so naturally, why my dreams have been so vivid, why touch has always felt like communication to me. And yes, we're in danger. But I'm not running. Not from this, not from you, not from what I really am. Even if it means fighting an organization that has unlimited resources? Especially then." Sage's voice was fierce. "They hurt you as a child. They're hunting other hybrids. If we have abilities that can stop them, shouldn't we use them?" Damon's storm-gray eyes held hers for a long moment. Then he pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her in the first full embrace he'd initiated since that first day at the aquarium. Sage felt his emotions flooding through their contact, fear mixed with determination, attraction amplified by their genetic compatibility, absolute certainty that she was the most important person in his life, despite knowing her for less than a month. "Then let's complete the bonding," he said against her hair. "Let's become powerful enough that they can't take us. Together." "Together," Sage agreed. Neither of them knew that completing the harmonic bond would require more than just emotional commitment. It would require trust, vulnerability, and a level of physical and emotional intimacy neither had experienced before. But they were about to find out. "The bonding requires complete trust and physical intimacy," Lyra had explained before leaving them to prepare. "Your bioelectric fields need to synchronize fully, which means barrier-free contact,
skin to skin, consciousness to consciousness, holding nothing back. Only then will your empathic abilities merge and amplify enough to defend yourselves. Now, standing in Damon's bedroom overlooking the moonlit ocean, Sage felt her heart racing with combination of anticipation and nervousness. Damon stood by the windows, tension evident in his shoulders despite his attempt at calm. "We don't have to do this," he said quietly, not turning to face her. "If you're uncomfortable, we can find another way." "Damon, look at me!" He turned, and Sage saw vulnerability beneath his controlled exterior. 15 years of touch aversion had left him uncertain about intimacy, fearful of causing or experiencing pain, despite weeks of her healing touch. "I trust you," Sage said firmly, moving closer. "Completely. And I want this, not just because we need to bond for survival, but because I want to be close to you, really close, in ways I haven't wanted to be close to anyone before." "Damon, I don't know how to do this. I've never been intimate with anyone. The thought of that level of contact always terrified me because touch meant pain. What if I hurt you? What if I can't?" Sage placed her finger gently over his lips, silencing his fears. Through the contact, she felt his emotional turbulence, desire warring with deep-seated fear, desperate need for connection, fighting against years of learned avoidance. "Then let me lead," she said softly. "Let me show you that touch can be healing, connecting, wonderful. Damon, I'm empathic. I can feel what you're feeling. I'll know if anything is wrong, and we'll stop immediately, okay?" "Okay," he breathed, and Sage felt his trembling through their contact, not from fear now, but anticipation. She guided him to sit on the edge of the bed, then knelt between his legs, her hands resting gently on his thighs. Even through his clothes, she could feel the bioelectric resonance building between them. "We'll go slowly," Sage murmured, "every step with your full consent and comfort. Tell me what you're feeling, both physically and emotionally. Our empathic connection means I can sense it, but I need to hear it in your words too." "Warm," Damon said, his voice rough. "Your touch feels warm and safe, like coming home to something I never knew I was missing." "Good, that's exactly right." Sage's hand slid up his chest slowly, feeling his rapid heartbeat. "May I remove your shirt? I want to see if skin-to-skin contact amplifies the connection." At his nod, Sage carefully lifted his shirt over his head, revealing a lean, muscled torso marked with faint scars, evidence of his traumatic childhood. She placed her hand over his heart, and purple bioluminescence immediately bloomed where their skin touched. Damon gasped. "I can feel you inside my mind, not invasive, invited, like you're sharing space in my consciousness. That's the harmonic bond beginning to form, your neural pathways recognizing mine, synchronizing." Sage leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his head. "I'm going to send you specific emotions now through the empathic connection. Tell me if any feel overwhelming." She channeled warmth first, comfort, safety, and acceptance. Felt Damon's body relax, his breathing evening out. Then affection, the tender caring she had developed for him over these weeks. His hands came up to cup her face, holding her gently. "More," he whispered. "I want to feel everything you feel." So Sage showed him desire, the attraction that had been building since that first hug, amplified by their genetic compatibility. Damon's pupils dilated, his breathing quickening, and Sage felt his answering desire flooding back through their connection. "Damon, I want," his words tangled with emotion he couldn't quite articulate. "I know, I feel it too." She stood, helping him to his feet, and began removing her own clothes slowly, giving him time to adjust to each new level of intimacy. When she stood before him, in just her underwear, purple bioluminescent patterns had begun appearing across her skin, tribal designs that marked her celestial heritage. "You're glowing," Damon breathed. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "So are you." Silver light had begun surrounding him, his own hybrid nature responding to proximity with hers. "Damon, what happens next is not just physical,
The harmonic bonding means our consciousness will merge during intimacy. We'll experience each other's emotions and sensations simultaneously. It'll be intense, but I promise, I'm with you every step. When they came together, it transcended anything Sage had imagined. Their bioelectric fields merged completely, creating feedback loops of sensation and emotion. She felt Damon's wonder at experiencing touch without pain, felt his growing confidence as her empathic abilities continuously reassured him this was safe and wanted. And he felt her fierce protectiveness toward him, her desire to heal all the wounds his parents had inflicted on him, her growing love that had nothing to do with their hybrid genetics and everything to do with who he was as a person. As their physical intimacy deepened, Sage felt her consciousness expanding to merge with his across multiple levels. She experienced his memories flooding her awareness, the traumatic experiments, the years of isolation, the desperate hope when her hug hadn't hurt. And he experienced hers, growing up without a father, always feeling different, finding solace in marine life that seemed to understand her in ways humans didn't. Their lovemaking became a complete harmonic bonding. Purple and silver bioluminescence filled the room, their bodies glowing where they touched. Sage felt neural pathways in Damon's brain rewiring under the influence of her empathic healing, felt damaged connections rebuilding as their bioelectric fields synchronized completely. When they climaxed together, Sage experienced not just physical sensation, but dimensional expansion. She could suddenly perceive the quantum ocean realm Lyra had mentioned, see how